This is how Stormtroopers play pool.
My first experience of Star Wars was going to see the movie when it was first run, queuing round the block.
My first initial memory is walking in on my dad watching Star Wars and then thinking, what is this and why have I not seen it?
It's the first movie I ever saw in a cinema, so it's been the benchmark since then.
I mean, this will have been a grainy VHS tape during the 80s, and then I probably watched it until it broke.
I do absolutely remember seeing Darth Vader when I was way too young. I couldn't process it. He was absolutely terrifying.
Like, the design was so out of ordinary. It was like scary, but also like cool in the same time. And I remember my aunt, she had like a magazine with a picture of Darth Vader, and I cut it out, I ruined the magazine, and I just carried that picture in my wallet for a year.
And so my first memory is actually playing on the toys, like on this like old Persian carpet in England, and just like making up my own stories, and my brother and I played them together. And then watching the movies and being like, oh, so that's who Leia and Han are, you know? Like
this is actually my childhood Stormtrooper from 1977.
Had toys, had the apparel, had the amazing 80s retro, it wasn't at the time, like Empire Strikes Back, milk glass that you get.
It completely changed everything. It was something that I had never seen. It was like, I want to be in this world. I want to somehow connect into doing something that is this cool and this fun. And so immediately I had my parents make myself a Jawa Halloween costume. And then the next summer when Star Wars was re-released, they hired me to wear my Jawa costume while they played Star Wars all summer long. So I got to be a Jawa and watch Star Wars all summer long.
Very early when I was a kid, like we're sitting together in my grandmother's living room. They go into Mos Eisley, and from that point on, I was like dreaming what is behind the camera, like what world could there be?
Star Wars Outlaws is an open-world, single-player action-adventure game set in the year gap between Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars: Return of the Jedi. This follows the devastating Battle of Hoth at a time when the ruthless Galactic Empire rules with an iron fist. But as Imperial rule and civil unrest continue to consume the galaxy, the underworld thrives, with criminal syndicates rising to power. This presents a wealth of opportunities for a young, ambitious scoundrel.
Vess is a young thieving scoundrel who lives in Canto Bight. Her scoundrel code is to not trust anybody. She has big dreams. She wants to land a big score so that she can get out there in the galaxy and see if there's a place for her.
especially with Kay, it kind of goes back to that sort of scoundrel fantasy. And I think wanting to explore a character that wasn't really part of a rebellion or an empire, but was really just trying to survive. And I think that really helped us focus in on a character story, someone who has an internal struggle of trying to figure out how she fits in this galaxy of syndicates and the underworld and the likes.
The scoundrel feeling, I know that Star Wars is, filled with, that kind of attitude. Obviously Han Solo, like we instantly think of, but I don't know that we've seen this take her resilience and her wit, her charm, her fearlessness. I always tried to look for characters that had hints of that. You look at like Indiana Jones, you look even like Mortal Kombat, I look at Fast and Furious, I look at all of like the strong female characters. I even thought of Anaconda. Like it just it gives me this sense of like, yeah, we're gonna take them down, and it's like it's really dangerous out there. It's like but we're gonna make it.
And then giving her sort of a companion in Nix, sort of her only family is this creature who doesn't even speak her language right, and is essentially like a dog, became this kind of really interesting angle.
The interplay between Kay and her little partner in crime is also something that's really, I think, both an endearing, side of Kay as a character, but also a really fun toy at the heart of any gameplay moment, where he can be great help for you both in stealthy and more action-packed situations, distracting, attacking, setting traps, disabling alarms and whatnot. He's your long finger out into the world.
Nix is an alien creature called a Merkwall, and he's super intelligent. He doesn't speak English or actual sentences, but he understands what's said to him. And he's also very clever and very proactive and really eager to help out. When you're creating a character that's a fantasy character, you start by looking for the reference points of actual animals that this may resemble. But then you dial in some other stuff that sounds alien, that sounds odd, that sounds unique. To introduce himself to someone, Nix would walk up with a friendly little smile and sniff you and on the leg and just say,
Kay and Nix will convince a skilled crew of outlaws to join them and pull off one of the greatest heists the galaxy has ever seen.
ND5 is a BX series commando droid from the Clone Wars who has now been repurposed currently where our story takes place, and he is teamed up with Kay Vess to provide any kind of assistance that he may be able to offer and kind of keep things on track, keep her ambition, her limitless ambition, contained a bit.
To round it out, ND5 absolutely was born from those sort of spaghetti western, old cowboy movies that we wanted this character who had seen, the Clone Wars, this droid that already has a unique perspective, having just by being a droid, but also enduring that conflict. Put them in an underworld setting and have this sort of hulking frame with a jacket. It all sort of flowed very organically, very naturally, and that's kind of where we landed on the trio.
You have to do your research when it comes to droids. They're well versed. Everyone knows droids in the canon and all of the amazing characters and performances that already exist. You use that as a guideline for sure, and then we tried to step away and make our spin and make it as unique as possible. But personally, I had the series Cowboy Bebop in mind when we were in the Trailblazer bouncing around, and I saw the dynamic between, the two main characters in that. There was that, and then, look at the duster, look at the wind blowing. Anything, Western, Clint Eastwood, Outlaw Josie Wales, that kind of stuff. It was really inspirational for me to help me kind of jump into a mindset for ND5.
In Outlaws, you'll discover a galaxy of opportunity and distinct locations that offer a range of different biomes, inhabitants, and experiences.
I think it's one of the crowning achievements of this project is the immense scale. Ultimately let you control yourself from being literally inside events, sneaking into an Imperial compound, for example, getting on your speeder, driving to your ship, taking off up into the stars, exploring a space region, and hyper jumping at will to a different planet. I think it breeds the type of freedom that this fantasy is hungry for.
There is Cantonica, Toshara, which is a brand new planet that was made for the game, Tatooine, which is a fan favorite for sure, and Akiva and Kijimi that you might have seen in the movies.
I think that's the magic of video games, and it's our opportunity to take Star Wars, to take this world, these characters, these locations, and give you a chance at not just being an actor in that world, but being your own director and going where you want to go, aligning with the criminal syndicate that you want to align with, doing the jobs that you want to do, pursuing your curiosity out in the open world. That, for me, is real agency, real choice within something that is usually just presented as a linear piece of entertainment.
Having the opportunity to craft a Star Wars Outlaws world, I think what I'm the most excited about for players to discover and maybe share their pictures through photo mode would be the different environments that we have crafted. You have such a diversity, whether it's in space, different space regions to explore with your Trailblazer, but also on your speeder, discover all the different topography and micro landmarks, etc. I think all of this, I would be really happy to see what's the planet favorite among the different players.
When designing the game open world, visual influences, there's a lot of things that come from very close by, like the things that you wouldn't even think about when you just walk on the street. I went past a school close to where I live, and they had like these lit up seats outside, and in the night they would glow orange, and that was like, okay, this is the amberine that we are looking for. So a lot of the references taken from that. In winter, you go to the ocean here and you see it frozen over, and you see the shapes it creates in the frozen waves when the wind goes over it, and you take that and you really think about like, okay, how could that influence the landscape even on Toshara? Like thinking of amberine as ice in a way that is shaped by the winds. So there's like real life kind of influences that make a big impact on the actual final game.
One of my favorite things, and I've heard it a few times on the floor as well, is when you are in the open world, it's not an overwhelming experience. The design team did such a great job of not giving you too many suggestions on what to do, but more letting you go to interactions that you think are interesting, to do things that capture your attention, so that when you're doing side content, it's always things that made you curious, that pulled you in, that you're doing because you were attracted to it.
The way we translated these locations that are so iconic and that are so well known from the movies is that we also did it in an authentic way by looking at the schematic that Lucasfilm Games provided us, but also we wanted to give the opportunity to players to see the backstages of it. For example, Mos Eisley Cantina, you're going to have some room that players will be able to go into that you wouldn't see in the movies, for example. You're going to have Jabba's townhouse in Mos Eisley, which is something that hasn't necessarily been featured in the movie, but it's evoked in the lore. So there were things that we wanted to show in Jabba's palace. Kay and Nix will be able to visit this location. And we're gonna see some corridors and some rooms that hasn't been shown in the movie. So this is our take on this, to have a good balance between more like iconic elements, but also something that players have never seen before.
The fans will go in, translate every letter of Orabesh. We can leave little Easter eggs. We can leave little scribbles that hint to different places. And realizing the luxurious position of knowing every small little thing that I will put here, people will dig in, and that is just such an honor to do, and it's so rewarding to see people dig into that.
I'm always amazed with all those landmarks that you can see really far, and you're like, it's just your curiosity that will bring you to this location. And once you get there, it can be anything. It can be Nix moving around and saying to Kay, okay, there is something up there that I really want to add to my collection, so Kay will have to follow him. But it can also be like, oh, there is a faction compound, and there might be something really precious in this vault. So need to find a way to get in and to grab that thing, because yeah, maybe it will help me to customize my Trailblazer or my speeder. So there might be something valuable in there. So there are so many opportunities in those worlds. It's amazing.
So first location I'd visit in the Star Wars galaxy, definitely Tatooine, because I'm a big fan of Return of the Jedi. As a kid, that was my favorite movie. So I'd want to go to the Sarlacc pit and see if I can find some sun barge debris somewhere.
Oh man, mine's probably so boring, right? Tatooine, two suns, like the horizon, the moment, that's just like the most iconic moment in the entire series for me. Just that look of hope and saying like, I want to get out of here and my future's on the horizon. I mean, to stand there and look at that would be incredible.
I think I'd want to go to Cloud City. There's just something so cool of like looking out onto the clouds, standing on that platform, having the Falcon be sitting there. Like, I'd want to be there in that exact moment, just in the background, sort of with Lando being cool.
I mean, if I could go anywhere in the Star Wars galaxy, it would be Hoth, because I want to see those Tauntauns, because I love Tauntauns.
I'm probably more Coruscant. The Outer Rim is way too scary. I would not last a minute out there.
I would love to be able to explore maybe Coruscant, where you have all of these different streets, animations and bars and different places, and take my speeder and go through all of the different streets that have a different themes and meet all of these different aliens and species around.
Wherever Max Rebo's band's playing.
Probably sneak into Jabba's palace.
The sort of real sort of seedy den with a weird band playing. Max Rebo, weird singer, huge slug creature.
I read a a collection of short stories about Kanto. I think it's just called Kanto Bite. And it was about all the weird little characters in that universe. There was like a sommelier who was dealing in fine wines and a masseuse and their business there. And it was just all those background characters of the Star Wars universe. So that I want to meet those people.
And now Ewok Village, I want to bust that place
Ewok
up.
Village.
I want to party in Ewok Village as ND5
Yes.
with the code on.
Yeah.
Across the galaxy, you live and die by your reputation with the choices you make, impacting your relationship with menacing syndicates. Kay will have to make decisions about who to align with, at least temporarily, and play the syndicates against each other for her benefit. Reputation will impact Kay's experience, with a good reputation leading to things such as syndicate territory access, lucrative jobs, and vendor discounts. A bad reputation, on the other hand, will result in Kay being hunted down by syndicate assassins. Throughout the game, you'll encounter a wide range of opportunities that you can engage in, from intel chains to contracts or even Nix tales.
Because it's an open world game and we want a lot of player agency while still telling Kay's story as it kind of should play out, we did try to strike a balance there for like what is the best kind of approach to that player agency. And one of the things that we felt was the sort of most valuable to do was focusing on the reputation system. You have these criminal syndicates like Crimson Dawn, Ashika Clan, Pikes and Hutts. The fact that any outlaw is going to work for them and go against them, and really giving the player kind of the choice, like, yes, you're on a roller coaster ride and sometimes you're going to get thrown in somewhere without your control, but in a lot of cases you actually get to decide sort of who you focus on and kind of where you want to focus your efforts.
So you are always going up and down with all those crime syndicates in order to have new abilities, get new items, or even being able to get into this faction territory, for instance. Like, okay, I cannot get there because if they see me, they will like shoot me on sight. But no, I'm their friend, so I'm able to access those vendors, those new sabak tables, those high-stake contracts. And it's amazing to unlock part of the world like this.
I do think that causing chaos, getting, into even factions fighting other factions, and then going, ooh, whose side do I pick in this encounter? I'm just going to start blasting these guys, and maybe those guys will like me better. That emergent gameplay and just being able to see the, as you say, the chaos of the different planets emerge is fun. It is fun. It is a toy at the end of the day.
And I'm really excited to see players push the limits. To see, can I get top reputation with every faction? Can I get the lowest reputation with every faction? And everything in between, because it's so easy to have different experiences every time you play this game. So I'm really excited to see people push wherever they want to push and to see that common line.
If I were a Scoundrel, I'd want to be aligned with the syndicate that was the most nerd-friendly and that would send me off on missions that were the least dangerous or physically threatening. So whichever syndicate is doing that, that's the one I want.
Yeah, I totally went Crimson Dawn when I played. It just seemed most natural. I don't know why. I just thought, yeah, this is me.
I mean, I don't want to diss on the Hutts, but the climate on Tatooine seems a little bit unbearable. I think I would lean towards something like Ashika Clan. On Kijimi there's a lot of snow. I like to do sports. Maybe there's some fun activities to be had out in the mountains of Kijimi.
Yeah, on my side, I was thinking the same. I was like, okay, this new Ashika clan is interesting. I would try to be a friend with them just to see how it goes.
Oh, I know immediately. If I was a Scoundrel, Crimson Dawn, for sure. Lady Kira is just so charismatic. I think she could convince me to perform all sorts of illegal things. The Crimson Dawn are all about undercover and manipulation, and that sounds like a fun thing if I was a Scoundrel.
When I was playing the game, I was like, I want to be the Hutts because the customizations are so cool. Like, I get to wear the painted outfits. Like, I love seeing that. I think they've done such a great job with the design. But the Hutts are just, they're iconic and we've known about them. So for Vess to even play into that and step foot, I want to be a part of the Hutts.
I definitely also would work for the Hutts, but not because of Jabba, because of Salacious B. Crumb, the little monkey lizard next to him. He's the real boss to me.
Now let's turn our attention to Scoundrel gameplay. As a skilled thief and emerging outlaw, Kay has a wide range of skills and tools of the trade to support her in any situation. These include your data spike used for picking locks, a kit used for slicing terminals, and your grappling hook, which allows you to traverse both vertical and horizontal spaces. Kay will also have access to a blaster, which can adapt to any situation.
So designing for a Scoundrel in Star Wars Outlaws was really starting with listing what do you want to do? Like from the source material, you want to shoot your blaster, you want to throw some haymakers, and you want to, talk your way out of trouble, and you want to talk your way into trouble. But then it was like expanding that. You want to see what's on the horizon. Okay, how do you do that? Well, you want a speeder. You want to have what you saw people do in the movies. And then you look up and you're like, okay, but I also want to go there. So you want the spaceship. So it was really starting from a Scoundrel is a person with a sidearm and a sidekick and their wits, and then building out from there, I would say.
Yeah, it was very much always working from that pillar of this is a Scoundrel fantasy. So what do you want to do as a Scoundrel? So for me as a designer, I could always look to that as a beacon to guide design decisions. And then you find things like, well, you want to place a back. You want to maybe bet on some failures. And it all kind of organically grows from there.
When you do a Scoundrel combat system, you're going to go back to the source material. And we're in the original trilogy, so you want effort over elegance. You want haymakers and dirty tricks and shooting from the hip. We actually went to a lot of trouble making sure that if your blaster is holstered, you just pull the trigger, you literally shoot from the hip before she raises it into an aimed position. It's those little details that really sell the character of that era. And it was a particular style. She's not a trained commando. She's making it up as she goes along and kind of taking opportunities as they come. And that's really what we wanted to sell with that style of combat and the expression and animation of combat.
I mean, I would love to see characters that we created for Star Wars Outlaws moving into live action. I think that would be fantastic, personally, for me to see. We put so much work and time into creating new species, new worlds, new characters. To see that realized in a different way in live action would, personally, for me, would be fantastic.
I would take it as the biggest compliment. I think I would be more than grateful and flattered to know that one of our creation was so impactful that a movie was created. And I can tell you for sure from one of our internal interviews with some of the actors that they're very keen on playing those characters live. So
Star Wars has proven to be a beautifully plastic galaxy to spread out from. And I'm told it's supposed to be a galaxy, not a universe. And so any of these characters or creatures exist beautifully in whatever format they put them in, whether it's two-dimensional animation or 3D or on camera. I would absolutely expect once a character is established, they're going to dip back into that well and bring it to life in some other realm.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that would be a dream. One thing is bringing these characters to life in video games, but to be able to see every look, every emotion and challenge in a real human face and see all the details of that, I don't know, you could just dive into the characters with even more depth. So it would be an honor to be able to step onto the world with a real set and wear her armor and her blaster and do it all in a way that it would be kind of as immersive as playing the game.
Yeah, you wouldn't even skip a beat. I mean, to be fair, we were with these characters from day one, building from scratch, and as we talk with the creative team, when the narrative team, when they write the scripts, as time goes on, they have an idea of what the story and what the characters are. But as these personalities are cast and these bodies are put into those characters, it merges. So it's a piece of you. So it makes sense. Of course, I would love to put this into live action.
It's a big process. It's a lot of iteration. We give everybody a lot of freedom on the team. And there's iteration and there's magic that comes from that iteration that's refined through the lens of design principles from Star Wars, from Lucasfilm Games. And we end up getting something that the entire team really, really loves. So it's a pure joy, that process.
That this is a game that everyone should be able to engage with and enjoy. And if you can start it, you can complete it. And I think a big part of that is that Kay and the type of character that she is very relatable and is a little bit of a blank page in the beginning, but has the personality that very naturally gets into big tricky situation and takes on new things. So getting a speeder, getting a ship, and growing into this world and into what the game has to offer, I think is very approachable, because you don't have to have a previous deep attachment to someone or something within Star Wars to latch on.
What I'm most excited for people to experience is just the sense of freedom to be able to pick a direction, get into some trouble, just that like sense of agency of being able to go around in Star Wars. Just, how far is it from Mos Eisley to the moisture farms? I'm just going to drive and find out and get into trouble on the way. And I think that like fantasy is what I can't wait for people to get their hands on.
For me, I got the opportunity to work on some of the smaller underworld stories. So this is your people in the back of the cantina that don't get usual screen time, but you can go and talk to them and you can find out what their deal is. We have a lot of interesting characters in Star Wars, but also specifically the underworld, and being able to discover all those unique little stories that just build up the world and who everyone is. I can't wait for players to discover all those.
What I love so much about the game is how you can lose yourself in it. Like, it's so easy to get distracted and pulled by something and end up playing Sabacc when your goal was to go on the space station in the first place. I can't wait for players to get to experience that and experience our open world and all the content and how it connects together into an immersive Scoundrel experience.
We're in a creative environment, right? So we're creating new assets, creating new characters, creating new worlds. And to see that process build, I think that's my favorite thing. Every day it just gets better and better.